So we've got CEO of GOEXEC Nutraceuticals, Jen MILKS, in the house today. Jen, I apologize if I'm a little loopy today because I've been fasting. So I
that's
apologize.
a good thing.
So explain to me why, because I've heard that's the case, but like I haven't eaten anything except water and coffee, but I just feel like lethargic, low energy. What's up with that?
So is this the first time that you've done this in a while?
First time ever.
Okay, that's why. So once it becomes more habit forming and your body understands what's going on and goes into that starvation mode and knows what starvation mode is, then you kind of adapt a little bit more. So how long have you been fasting for?
Basically since yesterday. Last night I had a big dinner, but I'm going to a big conference this week. I'm going to Patrick Bet-David Vault conference, and I'm gonna be honest. I ate too much ice cream over the week. I'm like, I gotta slim up. I gotta tighten up. I'm getting soft over here.
No, you can't show up there being soft. That's not going to be good with all those masterminds and all those brilliant individuals, which I heard about that and actually was invited to it, but due to my schedule, I'm not going to make it. So you'll have to let me know, report about that.
Maybe next year. So anyway, ate too much ice cream over the week, and I'm like, we got to tighten up. And so I said, I'm just going to fast on Monday. But I don't really feel like fasting a lot, but if it can optimize my brain performance, maybe there's something there. So break this down a little bit for me. Like, how does an actual realistic fast that is going to give me a higher performance, what does that even look like?
So it depends on the individual, right? And actually, with my history in nutritional genomics and my background, that's kind of where I've studied. That's where I've looked at individuals the most, is understanding their DNA through the human genome, as well as their biochemical pathways in combination with their lifestyle. So I like to kind of take all the aspects and pull it together. But because this is the first time you've done this, your body is in holy crap mode. Like, what is going on? Where's the ice cream? Where's the steak? Like, why are we not getting fed right now? So it's kind of like this mild detox that you're probably feeling. And that means you are going to feel a little brain fog, right? And another thing that happens in that process is that you've got, your microbiome there's a big gut-brain axis, right? So your microbiome, the bad bacteria in there are kind of you're killing them. They're starting to die off and they release gases. So then it affects brain functioning a little bit too. So it could come from a couple of different perspectives on why you personally are having this problem. But because this is the first time that you've done this, I can see why you're getting a little bit of lethargy and you're feeling a little lethargic and a little brain foggy. But the more you do it, especially if you implement intermittent fasting, have you ever done that before? Just like a 12-hour, 16-hour window?
That is my normal shtick, right? I'll eat at night and then I won't eat till probably dinner the next day, or maybe have like an apple with peanut butter for lunch, something really light for lunch to keep me going.
So do you pull in protein, right? When you break your fast?
I do, yes. So chicken, steak, generally chicken. Chicken's the easy one. But peanut butter has protein in it too, or maybe that's not enough.
Yeah, I would go straight for just protein when you break your fast. So maybe eliminate the apple for the next, right? So eat a little bit of protein first and then you can bring in the apple component. But I would break your fast with protein because that's what you want your cells to grab onto, right? So that way they can put energy in the cell and your body can start functioning more optimally. If you start feeding it any kind of sugar in the sense of even fructose from fruit, you could kind of get that weird, you ever have that drunken brain feeling from sugar, even fruit? Like if I eat a banana, I feel like I've buzzed off of my life. You know what I mean? And it's a freaking banana. But I mean, I can't handle that much sugar. So because I do intermittent fast on a daily basis, and for me, it enhances my productivity. But prolonged fasts, like what you're doing, is probably a little bit more shocking to your system.
Yeah. Oh, it's shocked. So how often, how often is like a reasonable time period to be doing it? Like, how often should I be doing this?
So how long are you planning on going?
I plan on eating breakfast in the morning because this is horrible.
That's just awful.
This is the worst. But listen,
you're going to wake up tomorrow and be so happy. Eat some eggs, some bacon. That's right. So it depends. I know a lot of people that'll go a week on like a water fast. And to me, that's so aggressive, right? And it puts your body into this shock. And if you're not accustomed to that, talk about decreasing productivity, man, you're not going to be able to do anything that week, right? For me, I say most people do pretty well. If you're doing the intermittent fasting and you're giving yourself a 16-hour window of not eating, I would say that probably once a week, maybe once every other week, or even once a month, if you want to do a 24 to 48 hour, go for it.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating. I mean, I definitely want to read up more on this. And, so this is the other thing that's really, I think, changed since I was a kid. When I was a kid, it was eat your vegetables, eat your fruit. You got the food pyramid. Now, all of a sudden, like 50% of adults are obese. So maybe we were doing it the wrong way. But when we look at nutraceuticals as a whole, like they've completely blown up. I hadn't even heard of this term until like a year ago. And now Andrew Huberman has the second largest podcast on earth. Where did this come from? Why did nutraceuticals become so popular and such a big topic all of a sudden?
I think people are willing to be more proactive and preventative with their health. I think that people are starting to see results from taking, particular ingredients, nutraceuticals, whether it's a vitamin D, vitamin C, something, micronutrient essential, or if it's something a little bit more complex like BioPQQ, which is what I have in Apex Mind and Body. So I think that they're understanding that when they take this, they're sick less often. They're being more proactive and preventative. And you do have experts like Huberman that are coming on and saying, here is why, and the scientific, evidence to back it up of why nutraceuticals are so good for people to optimize their performance, both mentally and physically, and keep you from going, do I really want to say it, going to the doctor nowadays? I mean, does anybody want to have to be on a prescription if they don't have to?
Well, I mean, this is probably one of the biggest problems that we have in the country right now is everybody is addicted to pills. Everyone's addicted to pills. It's terrible. Like we live in potentially the most prosperous, wealthy civilization in the history of Earth. And we're all fat, lazy, and on medicine. And depressed.
Correct. And bags of medicine. I mean, it's unbelievable. Now, can they do this with nutraceuticals? I've seen it. I've seen them bring in bags of nutraceuticals to when they're taking just too much of that and overloading the system on something. I mean, too much of a good thing is actually true. But correct. I think that a lot of people are getting sick and tired of being sick and tired. You want to enhance your productivity. There's so many people that are starting their own businesses that want to advance in their careers. That are learning that taking prescription medications maybe isn't the way to sustain that long term, but to go ahead and be preventative and proactive. As these baby boomers, I'll tell you what, Mark, they are one of the healthiest groups that I've ever seen. I have some 80-year-olds that are doing CrossFit, that I know that are doing whatever they can to enhance their brain function and brain longevity over the years because they want to continue to be sharp and to have an enhanced mental and physical, strength and performance. And I think that's awesome. So I actually think these baby boomers are the ones that are starting to say, hey, you know what, this pharmaceutical age, we don't have a pharmaceutical deficiency, but do we have nutritional deficiencies? Yeah, we do. So let's go ahead and support that.
Yeah, well, and I'm all for that. And I think one of the challenges to get any adoption is it just seems like a lot of the nutraceutical companies make they can make some like pretty hefty promises. It's like they overpromise and underdeliver. And we're talking about this a little bit beforehand where your doctor prescribed you something, you just take it until, I could give you some stories on this, but you just take it basically in perpetuity because the FDA or the Food and Drug Administration is saying it's okay. How the hell, this is just so shocking to me that the FDA will say a McDonald's hamburger is fine and, drink a Sprite, a 20-ounce Sprite bottle has 107% of your daily sugar intake, 170%. What the hell's going on?
There's sugar in everything. I guarantee there's sugar and maybe even crack cocaine in that McDonald's cheeseburger because it keeps you you crave it. I haven't had McDonald's and I can't tell you how long, but I know the second that you have it, you're like, oh my God, I can't stop thinking about them damn, McDonald's French fries. But,
to your point,
yeah.
I was on vacation a while ago because McDonald's is a special thing for me and the kids. They like McDonald's. And I could feel myself salivating. I was like, what the hell is going on? I'm like drooling over this cheeseburger.
They're pumping it into when you drive by there, you instantly smell it, right? It's this whole neuromarketing thing. They've nailed it. They hit those pain points, those pleasure, that dopamine, right? Where you're just like, oh my God, if I eat this, I'm going to feel so good. Maybe not afterwards, but right away, man, I'm going to be in heaven. I deserve this. So they go after those dopamine neurotransmitters and those pain points. They are brilliant when it comes to neuromarketing.
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt. But so back to this topic of nutraceuticals, overpromising, underdelivering. It seems like they're saying, oh, take this and your whole life will be changed. But like, what should we actually be looking for? What should I actually be looking for when taking a supplement like this?
Good question, right? And of course, me being the founder and CEO of a nutraceutical company, and we do make claims based on the science, right? So we actually use very particular ingredients that allow us to utilize the science that's been done to help people understand that these claims are actually backed up by research and development. And it's not just something I'm saying, like you said, it's going to change your life. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But the thing is the education on supplements is so minimal. Nobody really knows. Unless you've taken a nutrition class or you have a doctorate in natural medicine or functional medicine or anything like that, it's kind of difficult to go online and do your own research and get something that's not conflicting information as well. So typically, they're supposed to make claims based on the science. So if they have scientific evidence to back up their claims, then they can say it. But if they come on and say, you're going to get the best nights, they're umbrella statementing everything. And to me, that's what bothers me, is when you get this umbrella theory on individual health. Everybody's going to react differently to it. When I say, okay, here's what you're going to feel. It's going to boost nitric oxide by 230%. You're going to increase ATP production internally by 64%. That's all scientific evidence that we pulled from the ingredient companies that allows us to be more precise on our claim versus just saying, you're going to get the best night's sleep of your life. Well, freaking hope so.
Yeah, well, which all are great things. So I'm looking at your website here for everyone who's watching on the YouTubes, but I'm looking at mitochondrial biogenesis. This is like a different language. I don't understand. Is that mitochondrial? Aren't those like mushrooms and fungi, or am I way off base? I could be way wrong.
So mitochondria is the powerhouse of all your cells. That's where your energy production stems from, right? So this is what the energy in the cell comes from to preface, 250 plus biochemical processes in the body. So without good, strong mitochondria converting and enhancing ATP levels and getting those biochemical pathways fired up, well, yeah, you're going to have some problems with decrease in thinking straight, right? And being able to be sharp and have mental acuity and physical domination, like all that stuff is going to be a little bit hindered. And as an entrepreneur and an executive, what do you want more than anything? You want high mental acuity and you want to be able to sustain physical endurance as well throughout your day. So that's one of the pathways that I follow when I scientifically formulated this. And it was mainly because with my experience in nutritional genomics, I've looked at particular, I'm going to try not to get too sciencey on you, SNPs, single nucleotide polymorphisms. My friends say when I say big words, I say them really fast, so I'm slowing it down a little bit. I'm learning. But looking at these genetic variants, right, that make us a little bit different, but also that allow me to understand these biochemical pathways, such as mitochondrial biogenesis, and what I can use to support them. So that is stuff that I look at when I formulate, not just, what research says or I've read that this particular ingredient can help with cognitive functioning. I'm going to put it in there. And this one, I'm going to put it in there. And this one, I'm going to put it in there. And then you've got the kitchen sink in your formulation. I like to be a little bit more precise. And I'm following pathways when I'm looking at my formulations.
Makes sense to me. All this stuff is so obscenely complicated. And, I know a good deal of people who think that AI is the end of the world and it's going to be Skynet, it's going to destroy it. But I think that AI actually has the opportunity to solve some of the most complicated problems that we're facing. What role does AI have in helping develop better nutraceuticals and better health in general?
So it's mainly off of bioinformatics, right? So analyzing DNA, and this is how I look at it. I'm sure there are many other ways, but analyzing DNA using software, AI systems that create this algorithm that let us look at very particular SNPs that affect these very particular pathways and very particular individuals to see how they're going to absorb nutrients and utilize them more efficiently. So I went and studied this so that I could formulate better. I used to formulate for different large supplement companies in the past, and it helped me understand how best to formulate for somebody who's a vegan or a vegan company and what they might need versus somebody who is doing something for bodybuilders. So it kind of allowed me to understand those pathways better. And I think that that's where AI is going to come in. Now, ChatGPT, and I talked to you about this earlier, is great, right? You can put data set points in ChatGPT and be like, I'm I'm not going to say my weight, but I'm 5'7", I weigh I'm years old. And here are some, some specific details. I want you to spit out a nutraceutical regimen for me. They're going to give you some good ideas, but is it going to take lifestyle into account? Is it going to take, how your body functions and utilizes nutrients into account based on the human genome? No, that's where the more complex AIs and software is coming in. And also you have to have the person who knows it to be able to interpret it. Because when you're doing DNA testing, you're getting back raw data, lineage, linear raw data, and it has to be converted into something that's digestible to human beings and understandable. And AI doesn't have the capacity. Let me rephrase that. ChatGPT doesn't yet have the capacity to do that. And I even asked it if it did, and it said no.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think what AI actually does is it kills all the middlemen, because it turns someone that's very new, doesn't really understand things too complex, but they can be dangerous because if you know how to ask the right questions, it can elevate you from, let's say, a level 2 to a level 7.
Absolutely.
And it also, to your point, turns the experts into like super geniuses, right? So it's interesting. You either are in the very bottom or at the very top, and all the people in the middle are going to get kind of washed out, which is kind of an interesting facet. And if you do wash out all the middlemen, all the people that are like in the center, this goes across every industry, by the way. How do you ever develop experts? Because the experts are middlemen or middle women that have been doing it for 5, 10, 20, 30 years, and they become an expert. But if there's no middlemen anymore, middle women, middle dogs, whatever you are.
Right.
You're cutting out the middle, which is I think an interesting problem that we're going to see manifest. The other thing that you brought up, Jen, that I want to touch on real briefly are pathways, these mental pathways, these neuroreceptors they're firing off in our brain. I was actually talking to Paul Hutchinson about this last week. Actually, he's the executive producer of The Sound of Freedom. We're like, how do we cut this out? This human trafficking problem. And one of the big problems is that there's too much demand, especially in the United States. How do we stop the demand? And he said that psychedelics actually could play a role in changing the pathways in the brains of these people. So what role do you think that psychedelics might have in developing better health? Wow.
Right. So as I'm not an expert in psychedelics. I'm not going to claim I stay in my lane very well, but I've heard lots of conversation about it. I've been part of conversation about it. I've read about it, of course, and done my research. And I think that, again, I'm really big about watching these umbrella statements, right? And saying that everybody's going to be able to take psychedelics and it's going to completely change the world. If that is the case, and I'm not saying it can't be, I'm just cautious of them, then that's great. But I think there's a level, right? There's a threshold. So if you got a microdose, right? So I don't know if you brought that up, but microdosing is just these little tiny bits that are given to the body. The body says, okay, I can make a slight adjustments and I can adapt to this. But if you overload and people are just like, oh, well, if I take psychedelics, I'm just going to take them all at once and see what happens. This is totally rad. It'll change all my neural pathways and I'll be a freaking genius. That's not the way it works, right? So like with anything, there's a threshold and you have to avoid that umbrella statement. But that is an interesting point that I actually might have to look into a little bit because I never looked at it from that perspective before of changing the human. Was it just like the mindset? Was it the abundance of how it's happening? Was it the individual that he was talking about?
Yeah, so again, like you said, Jen, disclaimer, we're not talking about college frat kids, like, just partying hard. We're talking about, in a lab environment, special dosing, with an expert who's kind of like
monitoring.
Exactly. Mentoring and kind of like moving you through this process, right? And you're not doing this like habitually, you're doing this like one or two times. And there's these studies that are having tremendous results, especially when it comes to depression, trauma, PTSD. I mean, it's shocking. This is a show that's examining the most disruptive technologies and ideas. And to me, this is something that's it's completely flipped from when I was in high school and college.
Big time. Same. But it is an interesting point that you make. And as long as, yes, the monitoring and the conducting of a science experiment to see if it does help with those traumas, because I think we know, right, all these behaviors, you're not born with this behavior. You're not genetically tuned to be a bad person, right? It's something that happens in the brain somehow that could be part of the genome in that sense, but it's due to a trauma or something that happened in this person's life. And I'm not making an excuse whatsoever. However, but maybe that does retrain the brain. Now, I've heard of people, though, that have done this like an abundance of times. I went 6 times and I went 7 times and did it under a great environment, no threat to them personally. But at the end of it disrupted their depression a little bit more. So again, I think there's this whole, microdose, small amounts, controlled environment. And I'd be curious to see what could happen. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm definitely paying more attention. Like when a billionaire founder says it might be the way to cure pedophilia, I'm like, what the hell?
That's interesting.
This is some wild stuff. But I think there's so many cool technologies and ideas that are coming out. Before we go, I do want to ask you a little bit about Apex Mind and Body, which is your flagship nutraceutical. It says 60. I don't have any experience with nutraceuticals. If I pop open this bottle, like what should I be looking to do with this? Like, am I taking 5 a day? Am I taking 1 daily? How do I gauge that it's actually giving me a return? Like, what can I expect?
Yep. Nope. And I appreciate that, right? I appreciate the ask for sure, because everybody has this different expectation. So it's nice to be able to explain it. But so it's 2 capsules a day. That's what it took to get my formulation in there. What I notice the most myself and with what I'm hearing is the mental sharpness, the mental acuity, the focus, the clarity is really the sustained mental endurance is really what people notice the most. And then also to back it up, because there is something in there that elevates ATP, a little nitric oxide. We can get into that in a totally different show because that is a lot of information. There is a physical component and aspect to it too, where it does help. I think the biggest thing for me is I want to do all the things, all the damn things. I want to do it all. I want to be able to wake up early in the morning. I want to work as long as I want. I want to be able to go to the gym and get a really good exercise and not feel like I'm not there or don't have the physical strength or mental endurance to go through with it. I want to be able to come home, spend time with my daughter, my puppy, cook dinner, wash cars. Whatever I want to do it all and then hit that pillow at night and fall asleep and get the best night of sleep of my life. So the reason I formulated this is to be able to accomplish as much as I wanted to and as much as other people, which means something different to everybody throughout the day, but be able to fall asleep at night and not have any worries or disruption with sleep, which is why I left it stimulant-free. Plus, if you want to enjoy your cup of coffee, which I love coffee, I want to be able to pair it with it as well.
Sure. And now, is this something that's like an immediate result, or is this something like I have to take it for a few weeks to start to, like, what's the expectation as far as actually taking the nutraceutical?
So again, it depends. My answer, everybody hates it. It depends. But when you're talking to somebody who looks at people on an individual basis, my answer is always it depends. So from what the experience that I have heard the most, and even from myself, is that immediately I did feel like, oh, you kind of feel like your brain opens up a little bit, where you feel a little bit like, okay, I'm a little focused. And I think what's noticeable the most is the sustainability. Okay, I've been working for 4 hours and I don't have that afternoon crash or brain fog as much. That's kind of cool. Okay, it's not this boom, stimulant effect where you're like, okay, I have the jitters, I gotta go, 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 go. I didn't want that. I wanted to be able to have this kind of state where you're focused, but yet you're also calm-minded as well. So I usually tell people, take it for 2 or 3 weeks. See what you think. If you have to stop taking it to see what you notice as well. But over time, it does work better because it's working on biochemical pathways and enhancing mitochondria, ATP, nitric oxide, reactive oxygen species, all those really cool terms that, we can talk about another day, or you can look on the website for sure. But because it's based on a biochemical reaction and a pathway, not just a stimulant effect or a pre-workout, that's what makes us a little bit different.
Interesting. It's probably better, y'all, than all that ADHD medication that you've been taking too. I'm not a doctor, but...
Okay, since we're disruptive here, I'm just going to say it. I think everybody knows that Adderall is amazing. I think everybody knows the modafinil makes you feel 10 feet tall and bulletproof. I got through my Ph.D. in 8 months with modafinil. You know what I mean? Like, thank you, Dave Asprey, I guess, for that one. He's the one that talked about it. Where I learned it from, I tried it, was like, oh my gosh, this is miraculous. The problem is the next day, right? Or when you stop taking it, you feel like you just got hit by a friggin' tree, and your body then is going through a withdrawal because it doesn't know what to do. Where I'm trying to say, okay, I got through my MBA in 12 months, 4.0, did it with no smart drugs, just Apex, because I wanted to test it. Was it a little bit more challenging some days? Probably so. But the sustainability, my health, my longevity, everything felt like I just was able to keep going and functioning and not having that day where I'm like, oh my gosh, I just got hit by a truck.
Yeah, well, a lot of those things, just as I think in general in life, the get rich quick, the get strength quick, the lose weight fast, that stuff is, you're giving up something, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to take steroids, you're going to lose a little. I'm not going to be too vulgar here, but everything has a side effect, I think, and the faster you get it, Well,
steroids, right? Okay, so we can talk about ED if you want to talk about ED, if that's where you were going. But
that's where I was going. You get some shrinkage.
Apex Mind and Body has a 230% nitric oxide boost within the first 30 minutes. So talk about AD fix. There you go. But no, that's just one of those indirect things that kind of happens with it. But I don't mind being edgy and talking about the stuff nobody really wants to talk about either. So it's all good.
Well, my wife, maybe, you know what? Maybe my wife.
You should talk to her about that.
Yeah, maybe JoJo, we might be having to talk about this. So
cute.
Listen, I'll put a link below to goexec.com so you can check it out. We also have a special discount code I'll put in the show notes as well, so you can try out this nutraceutical. Jen, where's the best place for us to find you?
Well, for me personally, you can go to Instagram, Jen_GoExec. On X, I guess. I'm still trying to get used to saying X and not Twitter. But that's cool. On X, I don't even remember what it is. I think it's Jen MILKS _Ph.D. But Instagram, LinkedIn, you can find me. Jennifer, use my full name, as my grandfather would say. Make sure you always use your full name in business. Jennifer MILKS on LinkedIn. Otherwise, Facebook, I don't use much. Sorry, but I don't. So definitely Instagram for sure. But I'm trying to always post up videos, getting into some DNA reporting going on and some writing again, which I miss, and we'll incorporate that with GoExec. So some fun and exciting things for sure. But yeah, definitely give it a shot. Tell your wife to call me if she has any questions.
Yeah, cool. We'll do. Hopefully she'll be thanking you. And that code is After Hours 25 for 25% off. After Hours 25. Jen, thanks for joining the show today.
Yeah, no problem, Mark. Appreciate you.